Yeah, Hello and welcome to part 2 of Learn Japanese with Minnie, where you can follow my progress as I try and learn enough Japanese to pass the Japanese language proficiency test at the N4 level in just a couple of months. Because I am a hopeless optimist. So subscribe if you want to watch all my dreams get crushed in July. Today I'm going to be talking about Hiragana and Katakana, which are sometimes called Japanese alphabets because they're two of the sets of symbols that Japanese words can be written in. I'm going to tell you what they're for, how I learnt them, and how you can go about learning them. I have a feeling it's going to be kind of a long video, so I'm going to put some timings down below so you can skip forward to particular questions that you want to know the answer to. So to understand how the characters work, we're going to need to know a little bit about Japanese pronunciation. In Japanese, there are 5 vowels: a, I, U, E, O, and all the consonants, with one exception, are always followed by a vowel. So each individual sound is made up of a consonant followed by a vowel, or a vowel on its own. And these chunks of sound can be put together like Lego bricks to make words. And they don't really change depending on what's next to them, the way that sounds in English often do. So if you think of the words round and soup, they both have OU in the middle, but in round it's pronounced like ow, and in soup it's pronounced like ooh. That doesn't happen in Japanese. Also, think about how and low. There are a couple of exceptions, but they are nowhere near as dramatic and numerous as they are in English. So once you know what all the sounds are and how to identify them, you can pretty much pronounce anything. So what is hiragana? Hiragana is a set of 46 symbols, each one representing a sound in Japanese. Once you can read them, you can pronounce anything that's written down using these symbols. Unlike with English, when knowing the alphabet and the a, b, k sounds doesn't prepare you for words like night or cough. What is hiragana used for? What is it used for? Shit! I forgot to Google this. What is It's mostly used for grammatical things like particles, which are characters that tag on the end of words to let you know what kind of role that word fits into in a sentence, so whether it's a subject or an object or an adjective, kind of. It's also used for spelling things out phonetically. You might wonder why they don't use hiragana for writing everything if it's so easy to look at a hiragana symbol and know how to say it. But in Japanese, because the language has fewer sounds than we have in English or lots of other languages, there are a lot more things that can be pronounced the same way. In English, we have words like flower and flower, or peace and peace, that can be pronounced the same but written differently. The same is true in Japanese. And in conversation, that probably doesn't matter, because it's likely that the person you're talking to has a good idea which of the two you mean. But when it's written on a sign or it's written down somewhere, it might not be so obvious. So if both of those words were also spelled the same, that would get kind of confusing. So Japanese use another writing system called kanji, which are symbols that have meaning, and they get kind of confusing because they can be pronounced in different ways, and I'm going to make a separate video next week about kanji, so stay tuned for that. So how do you learn hiragana? If you want to copy what I did, then first of all, the obvious thing is to go online and find a table of all of these 46 symbols and print it out. And then pick a number that you think you could learn each day. I picked 5 because there are 5 vowels in Japanese, as I've already said, a, I, U, E, O, and each consonant that can be paired with the vowels is paired with each of them. So you have sets like ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, and I've literally forgotten what other letters of the alphabet there are. Ma, mi, mu, me, mo. It made sense to me to learn one set at a time, but you might be able to learn more or fewer a day. To start off with, I'd have all of the symbols that I plan to learn for a day at the top of a piece of paper, and I would just copy them out while I was on the bus on the way into work in the morning, and I would copy them lots and lots and lots of times and think really hard about the shape of the character and say it to myself while I was doing it. Then when I got home from work, I would test myself on the characters that I'd learned that day and see if I could remember how to write them and how to pronounce each one of them. If I could remember them fine, then I'd move on the next day to another 5 characters. But if there were any that I couldn't remember, I'd spend another day learning those 5. Even if you don't intend to be able to write Japanese, you just want to be able to read it and speak it, I'd still recommend writing down the hiragana symbols while you're trying to learn them, because it just adds another dimension to your learning. So later on when you're trying to recall them, if you can't quite remember how a character looks, if you think about writing it, the muscle memory might let you start to imagine how to form that character, and it might come back to you more easily. If you go about it this way, learning 5 characters a day, then with 46 characters, it'll take you, not long. It will take you about 10 days to learn them all, which isn't that long. There are a few more sounds than that, so those kind of have symbols too, but don't panic, don't freak out. There's this magic trick that just gives you a few more bonus sounds almost for free. There's a little mark that you can add to some of the characters that you will have already learned that changes how they're pronounced. It kind of softens them. Start off with ka, and you add the little symbol to it, and it becomes ga. You can do that for the whole K series, so then you end up with ga, gi, gu, get, go. And you can do that to a whole bunch of the other series too. Ta becomes da, sa becomes za, ha becomes ba. There is one more special super bonus addition to the H series. If you take ha and you add a symbol that looks a little bit like a degree sign to it, it becomes pa. And you can do that for the whole H series, so now you've got pa, pi, pu, pe, po. There are a couple of weirdo characters that don't follow the a, i, u, e, o pattern, but there's only a few of those. You can learn them. In the words of Gillian Michaels, you are strong. This is easy for you. There is nothing you can't do. And there's also the one lonely consonant, the only one in Japanese that doesn't need to be followed by a vowel, and that is n. It looks like this. Say it with me. N. In fact, to prove to you how easy it is, let's just learn 5 characters now. I'm going to teach you 5 characters. And then you will already be... Have I got a calculator? Shit, I'm not good at maths. Already more than 10% of the way to learning all of hiragana. Then I will test you on these at the end of the video and you can tell me how you did. Here we go. Are you ready? The first one we're going to learn is a vowel. It is E. And it looks like this. E for easy. Because hiragana is easy. Next one we're going to learn, also easy, but this one is ku. And it looks like this. Ku. I kind of think of it like the kicking part of a K in English, so that reminds me it's in the K series, and then I can remember that it's ku. The next one is ke. It looks like this. It's a little bit harder than the last one. It's a couple more lines, but I believe in you. Ke. Now we have sa. It looks like this. It's a little bit similar to the last one, but we're just going to prove that you can learn 2 symbols that are really similar and you can tell which one is which. So take a look at it, remember it. Final one of the 5 that we're going to learn. It's a special magical bonus because it's one of the ones that I talked about that has the extra little symbol that softens the sound. So this is da. Without the little addition, it would be ta. But adding the mark to it makes it da. So see if you can remember both, and then you've basically learnt 6 symbols instead of 5. So what is katakana? Katakana is basically another set of 46 symbols, that represent the same sounds as hiragana, and most of them even look like hiragana but kind of spikier, like they're hedgehog cousins, or like you tried to write hiragana with toothpicks. But they work in the same way, so anything that you can spell out with hiragana, you can spell out with katakana. What is katakana used for? You'd think with a perfectly usable set of 46 characters already, why introduce another one for the exact same sounds? Katakana is primarily used for loan words and for emphasis. So Wikipedia tells me it's basically like italics in English. I'm a bit dubious about that, but it works as an analogy. Loan words are the words that are adopted into a language from other languages. So like in English, we have déjà vu that we've pinched from French, and we don't spell it with the accents, and we kind of English it up when we say it, so we say déjà vu, and it doesn't sound very French. Similarly, Japanese has taken a whole bunch of words from English and other languages, and those will be written in katakana. I'm just guessing here, but it's probably to give people a heads up that it's a loan word, so not to try and read it like a native Japanese word or try and dissect meaning from bits of it in the way that you would with Japanese words. Like an example would be, Japanese has borrowed the word table. They don't really have that sound in the middle, the BLE, the bull sound in Japanese. So the closest equivalent that they have is teburu. Teburu. 3 of those sound units I talked about earlier. How do you learn katakana? Learning katakana is pretty simple if you've already learned hiragana, or the opposite way around, because some people like to start with katakana and then learn hiragana. That's because if katakana is used to spell out loan words, if you're a native English speaker, a lot of the Japanese loan words are English, and if you can phonetically read them by looking at each of the katakana symbols, then you've got a good idea of what they might mean straight away. Just like that example I just gave, table, teburu. There's also naifu. Guess what that means? It doesn't matter which way around you learn them, but once you've learned one, learning the other will be really easy. I'd suggest doing it in the same way and learning 5 characters a day until you have them all, because they're completely equivalent to the hiragana characters. Some pairs of them that represent the same sound might get you confused. I'd suggest making a list of the ones you find confusing and practicing those pairs a few extra times. Once you've learnt both, a good way to practice is to just get a friend to pick a sound and test you on it. See if you can write it down in hiragana and in katakana. Or if you have no friends like me, you could just write down the English equivalents of all the sounds, put them into a hat, and pick them out one at a time, and check if you can write them in both hiragana and katakana, and check your answers. Quiz time! Remember those hiragana symbols we learnt in the middle of the video? Well, now I'm going to test you on them. And we're going to see if you've remembered all 5 of them and if you're 10% of the way to learning all of the hiragana characters. Don't worry if you don't get them right, because you only had a few seconds to memorize each of them, and realistically, like, I spent minutes, hours, days learning hiragana, so it's not a big deal if you can't, but if you can, then great. Do you remember what this one is? That one was sa. What about this one? This one is ke. Can you remember this one? That one was ku. What about this one? That was the tricky one. That was the one with the extra symbol. That was ta, but the little marking at the top softens the sound and makes it da. And do you remember the final one? That was e, for easy. Like, I hope that was. So those of you who remembered all of them, congratulations, because now you can say your first sentence in Japanese. Put all those characters you just learned together and you get sake kudasai, which means sake please, which is a very useful and important sentence, which I am sure you will agree you will get a lot of use out of. So just write that down, take it into any bar, see what you get. should probably do this on a hard surface. Oh shit. Sake kudasai. Pretty sure the Japanese for cheers is kanpai. So, kanpai. Did you get it right? Let me know in the comments below and give me a thumbs up. Please don't give me a thumbs down if you didn't get it right. Just watch it loads more times until you do get it right. Don't forget to subscribe to see next week's video that's going to be all about kanji. So that's it. Kanpai. That will do. That will do. That will be okay. We'll tolerate that. We'll roll with it. Oh my god, there's a robin! Oh. Okay. Back to business. So for lots of yous, what are yous? I know what yous are. Sheep. Lots of sheep. I don't mean sheep. Doesn't really make any sense. Roughly, hiragana, and it's not roughly. It's exactly, actually. That is entirely true. I'm lying to you. What are they? Nobody knows, not me. That didn't really go very well. Good place to start.